Good morning students, welcome back to English class. So we were in the lesson number 7 from Vistas, Evans, Tries and all level. We have completed 75 page number. Now we are moving to the 76th page. So first paragraph of the 76th page. It was 9:10 a.m. when the governor switched on the receiver. He had instructed Jackson to tell Evans of the temporary little precaution that was only fair, as if Evans wouldn't spot it. But it wasn't at all a bit theoretical. Schoolboys, almost, how on earth was Evans going to try anything on today? If he was so anxious to make another break, why in heaven's name hadn't he tried it from the recreational block? Much easier, but he hadn't. And there he was now, sitting in a locked cell, all the prison officers on the alert. Two more locked doors between his cell and the yard, and a yard with a wall as high as a haystack. Yes, Evans was as safe as houses. Yeah, the repeat means fixed, sprang means past a spring, thudded, strike something with a heavy sound, twang means a strong ringing sound, haystack means a packed pile of hay or dried grass. So here, Ivan was sitting quietly facing the door, slightly away from two tables. He was concentrating on the elementary German grammar. Stephens took one of the keys from the ring and opened the lock. The lock of the cell made a ringing sound after it sprung up. At 9:10 a.m., the governor switched on the receiver of the microphone. He ordered Jackson to tell Evans to be careful as they had installed a microphone in his cell. He thought that it would be good to forewarn him. He said it in a way as though Evans would never be able to spot it. A thought came to the governor's mind that all this seemed like a theoretical drama and all their preparations were like those done by schoolboys. He thought that how could Evans think of escaping that day? He could have tried it when he was at the recreational block because it was easy to escape from there, but today he locked in his cell. All the officers were closely watching him. There were two doors between his cell and the yard. There were walls as high as piles of dry grass. Evans was totally safe now. Moving to the next paragraph. Anyway, it wouldn't be any trouble at all to have the receiver turned on for the next couple of hours or so. It wasn't as if there was going to be anything to listen to, was it? Amongst other things, an invigilator's duty was to ensure that the strictest silence was observed. But still, that little nagging doubt. Might Evans try to take advantage of Mac Leary, get him to smuggle in a chisel or two or a rope ladder? Or the governor sat up sharply. It was all very well getting rid of any potential weapon that Evans could have used. But what about Mac Leary? What if, quite unwittingly, the innocent Mac Leary had brought in something himself? A jackknife, perhaps. And what if Evans held him hostage with such a weapon? So here, smuggle means to take someone or something illegally. Smuggle means what? To take someone or something illegally. Chisel means a long bladed hand tool. Chisel means what? A long bladed hand tool. Potential means possible. Unwittingly means what? Unknowingly. Jackknife means a knife, large knife with a folding blade. Hostage means what? Captive. Here, the governor thought that there will be no problem if he keeps the receiver switched on, although he knew that there was nothing to listen because it is the duty of the supervisor to maintain silence. But he was still in doubt. He was worried about Evans taking undue advantage of Mac Leary. He could have smuggled him to take long bladed hand tool or a rope ladder. The governor at once got alert. He thought that they had taken away all the possible weapons from Evans. But there were chances that Mac Leary could have brought some weapon unknowingly with him, such a jackknife, which is large knife with a folding blade. Even Evans could hold him captive for forcing the prison officers to release him. The governor reached, next paragraph, the governor reached for the phone. It was 9:12 a.m. The examinee and the invigilator had already been introduced by Stephens when Jackson came back and shouted to McLeary through the cell door, "Can you come outside a minute, sir? You too, Stephens." Jackson quickly explained the governor's worries, and McLeary patiently held out his arms at shoulder level, whisked Jackson lightly fixed his clothes. "Something hard here, sir." "My reading glasses," replied McLeary, looking down at the spectacle case. Jackson quickly reassured him and, bending down on the landing thumb, fixed the catches on the suitcase. He picked up each envelope in turn, carefully passed his palms along their surfaces, and seemed satisfied. He rifled curiously through a few pages of Holy Writ and vaguely shook the Church Times. All right so far, but one of the objects in McLeary's suitcase was puzzling him sorely. Here, "fix" means check or search. Check or search. Rifle means turning pages quickly. Rifle means what? Turning pages quickly. Sorely means what? With a great intensity. Sorely means what? With a great intensity or strongly. Here, the governor called up someone at 9:12 a.m. Stephens had already introduced the supervisor and Evans, who had to appear for the exam. Just at that moment, Jackson came and asked McLeary to come outside for a minute. He explained about the governor's reasons for being worried. McLeary cooperated him in the checking process by holding out his arm so that he could be checked. Jackson started checking him very fast. He then found something hard, which Leary said was his reading glasses. To be more sure, he even checked his suitcase. He checked each envelope and carefully searched everything with his palms. He also went roughly through the Holy Writ and the Church Times. Everything was fine, but there was one thing in the suitcase that was strongly confusing him. "Do you mind telling me why you have brought this, sir?" He held up a smallish, semi-inflated rubber ring, such as a young child with a waist of about 12 inches might have struggled into. "You thinking of going for a swim, sir?" Here, McLeary, hitherto amiable demeanor, was slightly ruffled by this tasteless little pleasantry, and he answered Jackson somewhat sorely. If ye must know, I suffer from hemorrhoids, and when I am sitting down for any length of time. Very sorry, sir. I didn't mean to. Here, the embarrassment was still reddening Jackson's cheeks when he found the paper knife at the bottom of the case. I think I did better keep this though, if you don't mind. That is, sir. So here, hemorrhoids means what? A swollen vein or a group of veins. Semi-inflated means are filled with air. Semi-inflated means what? Are filled with air. Hitherto means what? Earlier or previous. Hitherto means what? Earlier or previous. Amiable means what? This is friendly. Demeanor means what? Manner, attitude. Ruffled means disarranged. Pleasantry means what? Joke or stuff to laugh. Embarrassed means what? Unease or awkward. I repeat. Hemorrhoids means what? A swollen vein or group of veins. Semi-inflated means are filled with air. Hitherto means what? Earlier or previous. Amiable means what? Friendly. Demeanor means manner or attitude. Ruffled means disarranged. Pleasantry means joke or a stuff to laugh. Embarrassed means unease or awkward. Here, Jackson asked McLeary as to why he had brought a half-filled rubber ring which was not even fit for a small child with 12-inch waist. He asked him whether he was going for a swim. McLeary, who still now seemed very friendly, suddenly changed because of the tasteless joke he had made. So he told him that he suffers from a hemorrhoid, and when he has to sit for a long time, he left his sentence incomplete. Jackson felt very awkward, but he felt very sorry for asking him all that. He then later on discovered the paper knife in the suitcase and said that he hoped McLeary did not mind, he kept it with him. So the next paragraph. It was 9:18 a.m. before the governor heard their voice again, and it was clear that the examination was going to be more than little late in getting underway. So here McLeary asked, it's a conversation between McLeary and Evans. McLeary, you have got a watch? Evans, yes, sir. McLeary, I will be telling you when to start and again when you have 5 minutes left. All right. Silence. McLeary, there is a plenty more of this writing paper should you need it. Again silence. McLeary, now write the name of the paper 0 to 1 -1 in the top left hand corner. Silence. McLeary, in the top right hand corner, write your index number 313 and in the box just below that write your center number 271. Alright? Silence. 9:20 a.m. McLeary, I am going to Evans. Yes, not going to stay here. Is McLeary, I don't know about that. Stephens, Mr. Jackson, give me strict instruction too. Evans, how I am supposed to concentrate on my exam with someone breathing down my neck. Cries, sorry sir, I didn't mean. The governor reached for the phone. Jackson, oh, good. Let's get Stephens out of that cell, will you? I think we are perhaps overdoing things. As you wish, sir. So here, what happened? It was the 9:18 a.m. when the governor heard their voices again. It was understood that the exam will start a little late. McLeary queried Evans about having a watch. He answered yes. He said that he will tell him when to start and when will again tell him when only 5 minutes will be left. Evans said nothing. McLeary gave him instructions about where to write in the index number, center number, etc. He quietly followed it. When McLeary was about to say start, Evans interrupted him and looked at Stephens. Stephens answered that he was being ordered by Jackson to stay there for the exam. Evans complained of not being able to concentrate if someone will be constantly watching him like this. He also felt sorry for this. Governor called Jackson and ordered him to get Stephens out of the cell as he thought they were doing it a bit too much. And next, the governor heard. We are moving to the next paragraph. The governor heard the exchange in the cell, heard the door clanked once more, and heard McLeary announce that the examination had begun at last. It was 9:25 a.m. There was a great calm. At 9:40 a.m., the examination board rang through, and the assistant secretary with special responsibility for modern languages asked to speak to the governor. The examination had already started, no doubt, a quarter of half an hour ago. Yes, well, there was a correction slip which some fool had forgotten to place in the examination package. Very brief. Could the governor please? Yes, of course, I will put you straight through to Mr. Jackson in D wing. He told the line a minute. Answered the governor. The explanation of this paragraph is that the governor heard what was talking on the phone between Stephen and Jackson. He heard the doorbell shut and also heard McLeary announcing the beginning of the exam. It was 9:25 a.m. There was a great peace. At 9:40 a.m., the assistant secretary for modern languages called up from the examination board to speak to the governor. The examination examination had already started about a quarter of an hour ago. He told him that some fool had not placed the correction slip in the examination package. He then tried to seek help from the governor. The receiver assures him of help by directly connecting the call to Mr. Jackson in D wing. Sorry. I repeat the paragraph. The governor heard what was talked on the phone between Stephen and Jackson. He heard the doorbell shut and also heard McLeary announcing the beginning of the exam. It was 9:25 a.m. and there was a great peace. At 9:40 a.m., the assistant secretary for modern language called up from the examination board to speak to the governor. The examination had already started about a quarter of an hour ago, and he told him that some fool had not placed the correction slip in the examination package. He then tried to seek help from the governor. The receiver assures him of help by directly connecting the call to Mr. Jackson in D wing. So, now the next paragraph. Was this sort of the thing the governor had feared? Was the phone call a fake? Some signal, some secret message, but he could check on that immediately. He dialed the number of the examination board but heard only the staccato bleeps of a line engaged. But then the line was engaged, wasn't it? Yes, not very intelligent. That 2 minutes later he heard some whispered communication in the cell. And then McLeary board Scott's voice. Will you please stop writing a V while Mr. Evans and listen carefully. Candidates offering German 0 to 1 should note the following correction. On page 3, line 15, the fourth word should read golden, not goldeny, and the whole phrase will therefore read zum goldenen loven, not zum goldeny loven. I repeat that. Staccato means a short musical note. Staccato means what? A short musical note. Scots means what? And the term for Scottish. And the term for Scottish. So here this paragraph says that could this a reason behind his fear? The governor thought a line of thoughts came to his mind about the call being a fake call used to share some signal or a secret message. He then cross-checked it by dialing the number of examination board and he heard the sound of continuous beep which one hears if the phone is engaged. After a gap of 2 minutes, he heard some whisper. After a while, he heard McCleary giving instruction to the Evans in his heavy Scottish voice. He asked him to stop writing for a while and also instructed him to open page 3. Here he gave him some instructions as to make corrections of fourth word in 15th line. So we have seen that in this paragraph that could this be a reason behind his fear, and the governor thought a line of thought came to his mind about the call being fake call used to share some signal or a secret message. He then cross-checked it by dialing the number of examination board. He heard the sound of continuous beep which one hears if the phone is engaged. Which one hears if the phone is engaged. After a gap of 2 minutes, he heard some whisper. After a while, he heard McCleary giving instruction to the Evans in his heavy Scottish voice. He asked him to stop writing for a while and also instructed him to open page 3. Here he gave him some instruction as to make correction of fourth word in the 15th line. So the next paragraph. The governor listened and smiled. He had taken German in the 16th form himself and he remembered all about the agreement of adjectives and also did McCleary by the sound of things, and for the minister's pronunciation was almost impressive. But what about Evans? He probably didn't know what an adjective was. The phone rang again. The magistrates got. They needed a prison van and a couple of prison officers. Remand case. And within 2 minutes, the governor was wondering whether that could be a hoax. He told himself not to be so silly. His imagination was beginning to run right. Magistrate means what? A civil officer who administrates law. Magistrate means what? Civil officer who administrates law. Hoax means prank. Your governor listened and smiled because he had taken German as a language when he was in the 6th class. He remembered about the adjectives. So did Miss Leary. Minister's pronunciation of the words sounded very impressive to the governor, but he thought there was less chance of Evans being aware of the adjectives. Meanwhile, he received a call from the magistrate civil officer who administer law or court. There was a need of a prison van and some officer as there was a remand case. Within the next 2 minutes, the governor thought it would be a fake call. He then thought he was thinking too much. His imagination was getting out of control. Evans. Next paragraph. For the first quarter of an hour, Stevens had dutifully peered through the peephole at intervals of 1 minute and so. And after that, every 2 minutes at 9:45 a.m., everything was still all right as he looked through the peephole once more. It took 4 to 5 seconds, no more. What was the point? It was always more or less the same. Evans, his pen between his lips, sat staring straight in front of him towards the door, seeking, it seemed, some sorely needed inspiration from somewhere. And opposite him, McLeary, seated slightly asked from the table now, his face in semi-profile, his hair as Stephens had noticed earlier, amateurishly clipped pretty closely to the scalp, his eyes behind the peeble lenses peering short uh, sightedly at the church chimes, his right index finger hooked beneath the narrow clerical collar, and the fingers of the left hand, and the nails meticulously manicured, slowly stroking the short black beard. Here, stare means gaze, askew means what, titled or angled, semi profile means partly turned, amateurish means what, beginner, meticulously means what, carefully, manicured means what, well cared or tidy. So here, for the first time, for the first 15 minutes, Stephen had looked into the cell, into the prison, through the peephole after a gap of every 1 minute, and then after a gap of 2 minutes. At 10:45 a.m., everything seemed normal. When he looked through the hall, there was no difference. It remained the same as always. Evans was always chewing his pen and looking at the front. McLeary, always seated on his chair, a bit tilted on one side with his face partly turned. Stephens had noticed him earlier that his hair was cut very short near the scalp. He was reading the church times through his spectacles, and his first finger was under his collar. The fingers of the left hand was nicely manicured. He was softly touching his black beard. I repeat the paragraph once again. For the first time, first 15 minutes, the Stephen had looked into the cell through the peephole after a gap of every 1 minute, and then after a gap of 2 minutes. At 10:45 a.m., everything seemed normal when he looked through the hall. There was no difference. It remained the same as always. Evans was always chewing his pen and looking at the front. McLeary, always seated on his chair, a bit tilted on one side with his face partly turned. Stephens had noticed him earlier that his hair was cut very short near the scalp. He was reading the church times through his spectacles, and his first finger was under his collar. The fingers of the left hand were nicely manicured. He was softly touching his black beard. The next paragraph. At 10:50 a.m., the receiver crackled to life, and the governor realized he had almost forgotten Evans for few minutes. Here, Evans, please sir, a whisper. Evans, please sir, louder. Evans, would you mind if I put a blanket round me shoulders, sir? It's a bit parky in your, isn't it? Silence. Evans, there is one on me bunk here, sir. McLeary, be quick about it. Silence. Crackled means crack or sizzle. Parky means what? Cold. So here at 10:50 a.m. the phone rang. After a while, the governor found that he had almost forgotten about Evans. He then heard Evans seeking permission from the supervisor to wrap up a blanket around his shoulder as he was feeling cold there. McLeary followed him. So we have completed till page number 79. We will continue the next page in the next video. Until then, keep reading, keep practicing. Bye.